Well, the beer business is not an easy one to break into, but our next guest has definitely made a name for herself in the industry, running one of Canada's largest homegrown breweries. Manjit Minhas is the co-founder and CEO of Minhas Breweries and Distillery, and is one of Canada's top 40 under 40 honorees this year, and joins us now from Calgary to talk a little bit more about her journey and what a journey it's been, Manjit. Some people might not know that when you and your brother started this business, you were 19. What was going through your mind back then?
Yeah, what was going through my mind was that I wanted cheaper beer, and I wanted beer that had real ingredients in it, and so why not make it ourselves?
And that's going through your head at 19. Now tell us a little bit more about the journey. I mean, it's truly been incredible to see what you guys have done in the face of an industry which now we talk about craft beer every day. But when you guys were starting, it really was a story. It was kind of like a David and Goliath story.
Definitely. When we were starting, my brother and I were engineering students here in Calgary, and absolutely there had been no new beer company or spirits company that had come into the Canadian market that had been successful in almost a century. And so it was definitely new, it was brave, it was daunting, but the great thing about being young is that you're naive also. And so yes, we've had 19 great years in the liquor business and many other businesses now, but definitely in the beer business. And so we absolutely were trailblazers back then. We still think that we are in a variety of categories, but it's nice to see that many others that have passion for beer are creating a business for themselves and becoming entrepreneurs.
The one word I've heard you use before is being optimistic. That if you're going to be a successful entrepreneur, you have to be an optimist, because building any business is going to have a pretty long path, a lot of ups and downs.
Yeah, definitely. I believe in being cautiously optimistic, though, but optimistic definitely, because being an entrepreneur definitely has a lot of bumps along the way. I could write a book just on all the failures the last 19 years, not the successes, and that's what makes you a company, a team, but also as a stronger, confident individual when you do have those successes. And so definitely we've been lucky, but we've worked really hard. It wasn't overnight. We've been at this 19 years, and so it's been a long time.
And sometimes when we talk about a new player in a field, there's sort of this evolution of the big player doesn't even know you exist. They ignore you. Then when they start to hear a little about you, they dismiss you. And then at a certain point, they start competing with you. And I guess I wonder, what have been some of the lessons that you learned if you're going to enter an industry which you're looking to serve a need that you didn't feel like was being served, but you're going up against such big players. What are some of the lessons that truly stick with you now?
Yeah, you definitely talked exactly from our playbook. You know, we started making inroads in the rural areas where the big guys were not paying attention to, by providing quality product, quality beer at a great price. And then we started working our ways into the cities and the high volume markets. So it definitely was step by step. But some of the best career advice I got when I was starting out from one of my mentors was to focus on setting goals that were achievable and incremental goals. Because you can't start a company and create the vision right away, because you really don't know where the end of that year or that decade is going to be. You have to be open to pivoting, listening to your customers, and also finding what the market really needs. I strongly believe in creating something that people want, which I think, unfortunately, there's some entrepreneurs today that really don't stick to that theory. And so it's great that if you want it, but you have to make sure that other people want it too, and that are willing to pay for it. And so I do believe that being an entrepreneur is a tough journey, but it can be a very rewarding journey if done right on your own terms. And
speaking of what the consumer might ultimately want, I'm sure you've heard all this conversation around buckabeer in Ontario, and you've told us before, I mean, you've got very different beer markets across the country, certainly Alberta and Ontario. On some levels are apples and oranges, but what do you think of this buckabeer idea? Because I wonder how brewers feel about it. Do they feel like they're going to be able to run their business the same way in an environment where political leaders are sort of trying to reshape the pricing?
Well, I am definitely excited about it. I think the price of beer in Ontario has been too high for way too long. 19 years ago when we came into the market in Alberta, our mandate was a buckabeer. And not only were we able to achieve it, we were able to make money at it. So I definitely appreciate a government that is trying to lower the price of beer for their citizens. And so I am excited about it. We are definitely working towards it. There are a couple hurdles, though. The taxes in Ontario are definitely higher than they are in other markets. So the government absolutely has to have some give in the taxes that they charge on beer, but also with the tariffs that are happening on aluminum, definitely that will eat our bottom line. But we have been working on it diligently the last couple days and week to get that to market as soon as possible and achieve that price, because we definitely believe that it's commendable and that it's about time that the duopoly of Molson and Labatt get a run for their money in Ontario.
And speaking of Molson, just a final question, industry question for you, Manjit. Obviously, they have now teamed up with a player in cannabis to explore a whole host of options. That's actually something you talked about with us in the past, that you and your brother had at least had some conversations about maybe collaborating. Are you guys looking further down that path when it comes to the future of your own business?
We definitely are. We haven't made that path and those partnerships public yet because we are a private company, and we definitely are in R&D with a lot of cannabis-infused products, and we are definitely looking forward to the fall and to the future to see where provinces settle once all the rules and regulations and price structures are set, but definitely working with our retail partners in Canada and within our own business in order to take advantage and expand into the cannabis business, because in a lot of ways it's complementary. In a lot of ways the retailers that will be selling cannabis in a variety of different packages are the ones that we already work with, and so it's kind of a natural fit for us, and we're excited about it. But more than that, I'm not really willing to say at this moment. But definitely you'll be seeing a lot from the Minhas Brewery come fall.
All right, we'll be looking for some interesting news on that front. Manjit, always a pleasure to have you on the program, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Manjit Minhas, co-founder of Minhas Breweries and a top 40 under 40 honoree.